Hello bookish friends, welcome to my July wrap-up video. First of all, thank you to everyone who has subscribed and commented on my first couple of videos. I really appreciate it. I'm also wearing my Reading Rainbow shirt today in honor of books. I loved that show as a kid and now I make YouTube videos about books. I'm so excited. So I have a couple of cheat sheets here and my summer book bingo card. Hopefully I remember to say if I put it on one of the squares. The first book I want to talk about is actually one I finished at the end of June because I really want to talk about it, and it is the last book in a series. That is Graudin by Cathy McCrumb. I can't say too much about this book as it is the last book in a trilogy. I just really loved this book. We continue the journey of Recorder as she adjusts to life without her drones and the technology that helped her manage her emotions, or to keep her from having them, and the consortium who wants to reclaim her. I really did enjoy this book. I gave it 5 stars. I loved the wrap up to this trilogy. I hope the writer makes more books. I would certainly pick them up. And for the book bingo, I put this on escapism because it is set in a different world and I needed the escape. Sorry, was interrupted by my kids. The rest of these books I read in July, and I'm just going to go in the order I read them. First of all, I have Love, Mary Elisabeth by Christy Martenson. This book is a historical fiction. The girl, Mary Elisabeth, it was in the title. She goes to live with her aunt and uncle and cousin while her mother is recuperating from consumption at a sanatorium, and her father is working a very long hours job to help pay for the medical bills. I really love this book. It's told in letters. It is avoiding all of the things I don't like in middle grade. The girl is respectful to her aunt and her uncle and has fun with her cousin and makes friends, and I gave this book 5 stars. Next, I have another book in a series. This one is Marigolds for Mourning by Audry Stallsmith. This is in the Time Will Tell Mysteries series. They're mostly standalone. I'm reading them in order. There's only 3 of them. This one is the football star ends up getting stung by bees when he's allergic and in a coma, and the police are trying to discover if it was intentional for the boy who was stung or if it was intended for someone else. And Rosemary, is it Rosemary? Reagan, sorry, Rosemary was her mother. Reagan, it helps to figure out what happened. She was part of the discovery of a murderer in the previous book. This one I don't think actually has a murder in it, and we have some new characters and some previous characters from the other book, and I really enjoyed this one. I think I gave this one 4.5 stars. There's a little bit of God talking audibly to the characters that I didn't agree with that prevented it from being 5 stars for me, but other than that, the mystery was good and I enjoyed the characters, and I have the last book in the trilogy that I hope to pick up in August. And then, oh, is that? Yes. This I put under booktube recommendation because Shatona had recommended the whole Time Will Tell series. And then for Jane Austen July, I read The Austen Escape by Katherine Reay. This is sort of a mishmash retelling of lots of Jane Austen books. So many references in this one. A woman named Mary, she is offered by a friend from her young adult years an all-expense-paid trip to an Austen-themed vacation in England, and while they're there, her friend basically loses her memory and thinks that she's living in Austen's time, and Mary and one of her friends from back home end up working to try to help the friend feel relaxed and safe in order to get her memory back. I think I've actually read this one before. It's been several years. I thought it was okay. I think I gave it like 3.5 or 4 stars. It's just become a bit too romancy for my taste. But I still enjoyed England and all the Austen references, like I said. And I think for this one, I put it for a place you'd like to visit, because I'd love to go to England someday and visit there. And then I have 2 ebooks that I finished. One of them was Vivid by Ashley Bustamante. It is the first book in her Color Magic series. I read this on ebook from my library, and I really enjoyed it. A bit YA, but that's kind of what to expect when you have a setting in a school and upper teen characters. It is in their world, you can use color to power your magic, and there's yellow magic, which is magic related to your mind. There's blue magic, where you can manipulate physical objects, and there's red magic, where you can manipulate the body. You can make it stronger, you can help it heal, and then you can also, if you're really skilled, use that magic on others. And it was the first book in a series. I'm kind of waiting to finish this series in order to decide what I think about the first book. I actually want a copy of the 3rd book and have that, so I hope to get to the 2nd book soon. And Vivid I keep putting off, because I was waiting until the whole series was out before I decided to start reading it. And the other ebook I read is Eve in Exile and the Restoration of Femininity by Rebekah Merkle. And I loved that book. It's a nonfiction book about the history of feminism and how that conflicts with biblical femininity and how you can fight back against that in your life. I gave that book 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I really felt convicted to put more effort into maintaining my household and running it well. And I think it is a wonderful read for any Christian woman to read. And then my next book that I finished was Mrs. Pollifax and the Second Thief. This is book 10 in the Mrs. Pollifax series, and Mrs. Pollifax is an old lady in her 60s, I believe, and she ends up working as a courier for the CIA. And sorry, it's been a while since I finished this one. Oh, right. Mrs. Pollifax has to go rescue John Sebastian Farrell, a character from previous books, in Italy, specifically Sicily. And she gets her cast of sidekick characters, and they end up in this basically compound run by another character's grandma or aunt, and it was just so much fun. I really enjoyed this one, and I gave this one 4.5 stars, and I used this for cozy mystery. It's not a murder mystery, but you have to solve like who's after Farrell and how to keep him safe, so I counted it. The next one, this is a read aloud I did with my girls while my boys were gone, and it is Princess Coral and the Crocodile by Laura Amy Schiltz and illustrated by Brian Floca. This is about Princess Cora, obviously. She really wants a dog, and she wants to be kind of a normal girl, but her nanny thinks she needs to be clean and bathed and look perfect all the time. Her mother thinks that she needs to be reading all of these books so she can have wisdom to run the country. And her dad thinks that she needs to be physically fit, and that doesn't leave any time to be a little girl. And so she writes to her fairy godmother asking for help, and the fairy godmother sends a crocodile, and shenanigans ensue. And I'm going to check my list, make sure I'm not forgetting any ebooks. Oh, yes, the next one, too, I read via ebook from... No, one was a physical book from my library, and the other one was an ebook from my library. The first is The Girl Who Kept the Castle by Ryan Graudin. Sorry, don't know how to say the name. And it follows a girl as the Wizard West has died and does not have a replacement to manage all the magic needs of the western part of the kingdom. And so he decides to hold trials, but he doesn't want people to know he's dead yet. And it was magical and fun. I think I gave this one 5 stars too. I was in a 5-star mood this month, and I really enjoyed it. The other one I read was The Lost Year by Katherine Marsh. This one, a few people were raving about. I read it. I kind of guessed some of the big reveals and was kind of done with that early teen age by the time I read this one. So the boy kind of annoyed me a bit, and his mom definitely annoyed me a bit, and I think that they kind of blew up the COVID stuff a bit in the book. But I enjoyed the grandmother's chapters. And then I finished If I Run by Terri Blackstock. This was a reread. I've wanted to reread this series during the summer, and this one follows Casey. She discovers her friend murdered and doesn't trust the police, so she goes on the run, and this follows her as she stays one step ahead of the people looking for her. And it did hold up to reread. And then I also finished reading this aloud to my children. This is the second Powerpup book versus the Grillmaster. It's an animal superhero story. All the animals have personalities. Powerpup has superpowers, and he ends up having to fight another animal who has superpowers too, the heat ones. Sorry, another interruption. I don't think I've said the past few where I put them on the book bingo. Even Exile I put on the hot cover because it has a withered apple on it. That was the best I could find. And I already did Vivid. Oh, Love, Mary, Elisabeth was mentioned in another book. It was mentioned in Shatona's Twice Old Tales. And the last year I put on Buzzy Book. Okay. And then for January and July, I read Jane Austen's Guide to Good Manners. This is a book just kind of describing what was good manners then and the blunders that some of the characters in Austen's books made, and some of the blunders that Austen mentioned in some of her letters. And this has little illustrations in it, which just added to the fun. And yeah, not anything deep, not anything bad. I think I gave this a solid 4 stars. And I also reread Persuasion by Jane Austen. This is my favorite of Austen's books. I like Anne. I like seeing her growth as a character from kind of wilted and taken advantage of by her family and also not really appreciated by her family to being loved and appreciated by other people that she meets throughout the book. And I like seeing Captain Wentworth get over his anger at her and that they can be reconciled at the end. And I read Winter's Maiden by Morgan L. Busse on ebook. I actually got an advanced reader's copy from the author on ebook, and my physical copy comes tomorrow, and I think it's going to be gorgeous. I'm looking forward to seeing it in person, and it is set in the same universe as her Followers of the Word trilogy, so it has people who are not quite human, who have different abilities. They're called Eldaren, and I forget the girl character's name. She ends up, she's clanless, so she is kind of looked down on by society because none of the clans have claimed her, and she ends up becoming a soldier for the Nordic army and having to fight. She ends up being a berserker, so when she fights she has almost supernatural fighting abilities. And our other main character, he doesn't come in until more than halfway through the book, and his name is Caden, and he's an Eldaren, and he is a healer. And I really liked his character. I liked his mentor's character. We also get some perspective from one of the clan leaders, the leader of the Bear Clan, and I can kind of guess a little bit of what's gonna happen, but I'm glad to be back in this world, and some of the familiar types of characters, the Chardonnay, which are the people who have taken their gifts from the word and twisted them, so it's the opposite of oath binding, only it instead of really encouraging people with truth, it basically makes them slaves. And instead of seeing truth, you you can bring the shadows into our world. And I think the opposite of healing is you can take someone else's life force and heal yourself or make yourself stronger. And I'm also still waiting to read more of the series before I make up my mind what I think about that one. Morgan L. Busse is one of the few authors where I will buy her books as they come out, because I know she's currently working on book 3, so I know I won't have to wait too long. And I also wouldn't mind rereading some of her books as the rest of the series come out. Also, another book I read with my kids, George Mueller, The Guardian of Bristol's Orphans by Janet and Jeff Benge. Yeah, it's a biography, obviously, George Mueller, and how he went from a thief to relying on God entirely for the money, for his orphanage, for food, for his family. And I ended up listening to this with my kids on audio. My library has the entire Christian Heroes Then and Now series on audio, and we're slowly making our way through all the books. We like the narrator, and my boys especially really liked this book. And the last one I read is another ebook called Potato Flake Christmas by Cathy Swanson. Yes, I read a Christmas book in July, but it was set in Arizona, which is hot in December still, and it follows two older characters, and they end up getting, the one gets her granddaughter to come live with her. She just is needing some help, and her granddaughter ends up leaving a toxic work environment, and the older guy gets his great nephew to move out to help him while he has a minor operation, but one that leaves him with a long recovery time, and he needs help maintaining the properties of the senior living community where he lives. And so the nephew moves from Hawaii to the Phoenix, Arizona area, and I liked it. It was a sweet, light read, and just what I needed at the moment. So I think that means I read 16 books in July, including a few read-alouds for my kids. And for next week, I'm thinking I will go over my unread bookshelf. I have about 25 books on that. And some other ideas I have are to flip through my reading journal and talk about series I'm currently reading. And my other idea was to do a bookshelf tour, but I would need a more steady tripod to do that. I also post a short every Monday about what I'm currently reading for the week, and I like to share a kids book recommendation. I did my first one on Friday, but I'm gonna need to do Thursdays in the future because homeschool group starts up on Friday afternoons in September. So thank you for tuning in. This might be a long video. We'll see. I also hope I can edit it together smoothly, and I might put the covers of the ebooks and library books I read at the end of this video. I haven't learned how to overlap it with my video yet, but I have learned how to add them in at the end. So let me know what you read in July. Do you have any recommendations? And I hope you pick up a good book today. Happy reading!